felt that. I don't think anyone felt that that was the most positive solution to our problem, but it got us through the winter and no one died. And so now we're trying to come up with an alternative site and alternative facility so that by the time winter gets here this year, we'll actually be able to do a better job of serving the homeless in Sweet Home. So with that, I'm not for sure who wants to speak first. We've been working on the presentation. I know Bob has worked on it. I know Brock has worked on it. I know I've read different versions of it. I think Dick has put some input into it. There's been comments provided. I don't know if Bob or Brock wants to talk first.
Either one. I know Sean's made. Actually, I think pretty much everybody has
added something. Yeah.
Yeah, the last bit.
Well,
I can go through it. I'm not sure we need to go through
I'll
it.
talk how it come about, and then I'll
Yeah.
just let you talk, Brock. But what we originally did was we saw the presentation from the previous meeting, and our thoughts were trying to simplify that so that when it went to city council, it would be a kind of a brief presentation to give more time for questions and answers. And so with Dick Knoll's help and Larry and Brock, I trimmed it down to, I think, 11 slides, which the last slides basically says questions. And what we did was we went back and kind of mirrored the information that Brock and the team had put together originally for an application for the grant funding. So we kind of felt if we took that kind of information and mirrored it over into the presentation, it would kind of tie the two together, application, presentation, project. So it had the flow all the way through. And that was the intent of it. And I think the presentation with everyone's input made it simple and really hit the key points. Are there going to be questions asked? Absolutely. It should generate some questions. But I think the whole bulk of the program, what's being asked to move forward with the council is there. And I've sent copies to Brock and the other parties and Ray and Lisa as well. And that's kind of where we're at on it right now.
Well, I know you said you didn't think we need to go through it again, but it's only 9 or 10 slides now. And there are people that have not seen the update. And so can you access that, Ray?
I'm
Trying to?
I'm going to try.
Okay.
And if not, thumb drive over here in my pocket.
And I know some of us, Brock, have talked about how the physical presentation, how we're going to do that. And I've put some thought into it, and I'm just wondering if, since I'm the committee chair, should I go ahead and do the presentation and then let you handle questions?
That's the premise I was kind of going on.
Okay.
I don't mind that at all. I think that is a good, it was going to be you or
Right.
the council member. I think that is.
You feel okay with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, there's kind of a decorum for that.
Okay. Well, I know I spoke to them the first time we went before them, and I thought, well, maybe I should go ahead and be the one to initiate the conversation, get the information to them, and then let them fire questions at you, because you're the one with the answers, not me.
Maybe. Well, you may probably have some.
I probably have some too.
I'll
But,
be happy to answer.
okay. I see it on Ray's computer.
So everybody's
I know. It is.
That thing, I gotta find this. We'll show it as a draft right now.
And as I presented, I doubt if I actually just read the slides. I'll probably just talk about the slides and let them read them to themselves, and I'll just talk about each slide. My goal is to get through the 10 slides in 10 minutes. And I think we can do that. And then leave 5 or 10 minutes for questions. Does that sound appropriate to you, city manager?
yes.
About 15 to 20 minutes, and then say, we're asking you to support this project. Okay. There's a lady from the Oregon Community Health, or not Oregon Community Health, the Oregon Community Foundation, who has been running a lot of the programs statewide. And she has shown interest in our project, and my guess is she will be here that night when we present. She feels that it's kind of unique that the county and the city and all of the local partners are working together. She said that's pretty rare, and she would like to see how it goes. This is Counselor Gordley. Is that what?
That was on the phone.
Oh.
The slides.
Doesn't look like her. Okay. Sure. She's off on her way.
On her way.
Okay. You can have it back.
Okay.
Any rate, we're going to go through the slides real quick because I don't think any of us want to be here tonight forever.
You don't want to vote. You don't need to be there.
Again, I'm not going to read it to you, but those that have not seen it, it'd be a good time to take a look at it and see what it has to say. Basically, that slide just says we're all working together to get a homeless site that will meet the needs of our homeless here in Sweet Home, as well as the community of Sweet Home.
The slides are quite clear to me too, by the way, Ray. You're doing a good job.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness.
Thanks for complimenting. Okay, any questions on that slide? Anything needs to be?
Dick, I've got to be honest. Brandon's texting me how to do this from his house. So
Did I already guess that or what?
Okay, did he tell you how to switch to the?
he did, yeah.
So what and why are we doing this? What are we doing? We're trying to build a low barrier sleep center for our homeless population. And why? Well, it's a growing problem in our community. Martin versus Boise says we have to do something, or we let them sleep on the streets. And then there are no low barrier facilities here in East Lynn County. So we need to develop something. Basically, you've got really three choices, the way I see it. We don't have a slide showing, but this past winter, before we erected the winter emergency shelter, we had homeless people sleeping in the doorways, basically multiple places throughout town. And so we want to move from them sleeping to the doorways. We want to move away from the tent city that we had this past winter. And what do we want to do? We want to move towards something that is well managed, organized, and efficiently run. And what we have there on the right is a site that a number of us are visiting here this week. It's Walla Walla, Washington's site where they have what they call Conestoga wagons. They're very inexpensive to make. They have no electricity in them, but they do have insulation, and they did meet the needs for the winter of the population there in Walla Walla. And I guess they are more comfortable than sleeping in the doorway. But they're not so comfortable that people are going to stay there for years and years.
And Larry, the only reason I didn't put an individual's picture in there is
Legal
the
reasons.
legal issues.
Yeah,
You know,
could've
whether,
found
if the
somebody
person would have
sleeping
signed off and
in
said, you
their
have
face.
my permission, then that would have made sense to me,
Both
but
of the ones I did have.
So, I kind of relied more on this,
Yeah.
if that's okay.
This is
then.
fine.
Perfect.
When I talk.
That's the reason.
I'll explain it to them. So we want to move from what we had last winter to something like Walla Walla, whether those are Conestogas or huts or pallets or something. We're not for sure quite yet, but we will get there before we actually build. Give me the-
That
Here we
works.
go.
See how that worked?
No, I'm just kidding. So we basically have three goals. The first one being to provide a healthy health equity throughout our community with how those that are facing a low barrier housing crisis. So how are we going to do that? How are we going to help those people? We're going to develop a sleep center that's safe, secure, stable. A housing first model with services that focus on helping people find stability as quick as possible. Permanent connections with our partners. We will have assistance in helping with education and employment, and we will work towards social and emotional well-being for the people using the sleep center. Goal number 2 is to create pathways from the low barrier sleep center into more permanent housing. We'll try and do that through coordinated partnering and individualized client management. Activities that we expect, going to set up pathways from the sleep center to transitional housing so that we can get them even out of our sleep center. Health respite solutions, we're going to involve Samaritan Health and mental health, county health services in meeting the needs of the clients that are using the facility. Create a program that addresses the physical and mental health needs, facilities, and goal setting, which will be including life skills development and networking with services to support self-sufficiency.
So a little piece of that is it is a coordinated care model. So unlike, some of what people saw last year, this is a model that is managed and isn't just kind of a free fall.
And I think that's very important for the committee to hear. So if I miss saying that, Brock, you might add that. Just step on my toes. Okay, and goal number 3, provide a continuum of care through new techniques and technologies. And again, using the individualized client management, making sure that we're addressing their needs and the needs of the community. There will be a client management system, so all of the clients will register into the program and they will receive health care. They'll meet with counselors, mental health people, social and community services will be assisting. Their needs will be met. Now, what we don't have in this that I can see is that we haven't said anything about the goal of getting them off out of the doorway.
Yeah, feel free to add that. Those 3 goals were statements from our grant proposal that we created. So there's some wording and some nomenclature that's a little different than what we've been using. And so the point there is that it definitely does that. And we're trying to make sure that we, again, have pathways through. The technologies and techniques is a nomenclature of the grant. And so we have to kind of have that in order to be innovative for our grant.
So I'll try and remember to add living that, another goal that isn't necessarily written down, but it is a goal of this whole project is to help keep our streets open and not having people sleep in the doorway.
And if you might, excuse me, Larry, but this is where the phrase coordinated care shows up. So even if you forget it in goal 2, you'll see it here in goal 3.
Okay. All right. So where are we talking about placing this? So this is basically why we will be in front of the city council. There is 7 acres behind the city maintenance yard that's called the knife property. That's kind of the nickname that it's picked up because it is kind of the shape of a carving knife. The idea would be that it's behind, it's off of the main highway, but again, it's close to services. And it will be a managed 24-hour site. It will be a sleep center that will also have a location for RVs and cars. If someone needs a place to stay for the night. It will have restrooms, showers, may end up with some kind of laundry facilities, but that is yet to be determined. It'll provide a mailing address for the clients that are using it. Transportation is right off of Main Street. The buses are easy to access from the site. There are stores, grocery stores. Mart is right next to it. And another very important part is that it's not anywhere near the school.
And one of the things I'll add, Larry, when I was going through these slides and editing, there was the 7 acres on there. I took it off for the reason we don't know whether there was going to be 7 acres. So it's a piece of property located here made more sense than trying to lock yourself in, because you might be trying to sell 7 acres and end up with 1.5 acres. And the same with the location of like X amount of parking spots. Depending on what happens, will determine what happens over here. So that's why I said just left it. There will be those, but we don't know what they are at this point in time. So that's kind of why I backed those off there.
And a lot's going to be the negotiations that takes place between the city and the county.
We won't get the full 7 acres.
No, I don't think we will either. And I don't know if we need to say anything that the county is looking at using the property for, do we say a dump station, or do we just say they're looking at using the property?
I don't think it's a secret.
Okay.
And the reality is that's what it's gonna make, them doing that project is what helps to make this so attainable, because of the access and the services they're gonna pay to bring in, so.
And the graphic there is just simply an example. To be honest with you, it will be different than that, but it gives some idea of the semicircle or circle, or
Right.
some of the other facilities that would be.
Well, and once we have more details from the negotiations, I know Rob is very good at drafting those kinds of.
I can't wait to hear what you're gonna say.
Yeah. He's very good at developing, kind of a site plan with how it's gonna go.
Great.
Once we know what's gonna go in, where it's gonna go in, et cetera. So, okay. It's an innovative project. Based on the Walla Walla project in Walla Walla, Washington, of which a number of us will be visiting this week. And so we'll have a really, a core group of people at the meeting that night that will have attended and visited Walla Walla site. So I'm sure that somewhere down the road there, the council will want to ask questions of those people that visited, what they thought, what they saw, et cetera. So that will basically be it. What's the next one? Yeah. Family Assistance and Resource Center Group. Mission is to establish trust. Thought we cut that one out. Fine to leave it there. Is there another one? Or is that all? Okay, if that was the last one, that's fine. I didn't know. I didn't see it in the version I saw right before I came.
And the reason I put the FAC, that was the idea that they're the ones that will.
That's right. And I will definitely recognize Brock when he, Shirley also. Are you going to sit up in the front and answer questions? That's what that's kind of what I thought, Shirley. So that, I think we can get through that in 10 minutes and then open it up for questions. See where it goes. But in the end, the final question will be, can you support us moving forward on this project? That's the question to the council.
I actually like that we took out some of the items because you know those questions will come up. So, you know, when we can say, there is gonna be a local board
Right.
of 7 people from this community that get to decide, you know, actions and
Right.
rules. Things like that.
Okay. So will someone, Lisa, will someone actually pose a question or, you know, make a motion of some kind? Is that how it will probably go?
There will need to be someone to make a motion to authorize staff to begin
Yeah, that's,
efforts to acquire some type of control and tenure through the county property.
so hopefully someone that visits that site would be willing to do that.
That was a hint.
Well,
'Cause you're the only one here that can.
Dave will be there also.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dave
because
could do it.
I'm gonna have to be remote that night, and so I definitely want to make sure that someone's on the ground here that can make that motion in case there is a connection issue.
So we need to talk to Dave
I think
while
we
we're
can
up
do
there, just to cover our bases.
And you're definitely gonna get hit with, I think, the question of what's a reasonable expectation of getting people from this facility to the next step? What does that next step look like? Brock and I had a conversation about New Hope and where they're at, but
I think that would be, you know, I'll make it really brief, but give a slight example of just, you know, we go from emergency to transitional. Currently, we have about 3 individuals that we could do that fairly quickly with, and then the permanent higher barrier. And then we can give an example if, you know, for a woman with kids or other situations, they would then go through the Hope Center dynamic. And I think I'll ask Mike to be here.
probably a good idea. Cause they'll probably ask where he's at, how long until that's available,
Okay,
those kinds of things.
I'll hit him up on this question so I know too.
But I would like to just stress, let's not overpromise what we believe this can accomplish.
I think they're really interested in having a centralized location for people to go with appropriate bathrooms and showers. That's really, I think, important to them, so that those resources are available there. But the big thing is getting people in a centralized location where they could.
Get them out of the door, to be honest with you.
Well, that's
And to be honest with you, there's other actions, like the camper that's sitting out there and they're taking their wave runners on the lake and they're camping in city property instead of, you know, where they probably should be.
And it is so much easier to keep them moving forward when they're actually, when you can find them on a regular basis. That is incredibly important to improving their situation. This year it's been harder also all this year to make sure they get to appointments. So hopefully we can get that going again.
Adherence is huge.
Yep.
Is it not only for court dates or medical appointments, but just medical adherence for their medications and stuff.
I think this location is appropriate for the dynamics of our community, where last year was very difficult for our members of our community.
Yeah, I just don't want to be the pessimist, but I want to make sure we're just not, because those of us who are out and know some individuals should realize that some of those may not be able to stay in this facility because they may not follow the rules for a period of time. And so they will still be out in different areas because it is going to be a rule-based site and facility and there's consequences.
Yeah, you're nailing it. And most of the organizations that we've talked to that have started shelters or initiated protocols like that, they say it usually takes about a year and a half to get their teeth cut on that. It's a difficult. But as you said, it's not going to be totally smooth.
It just gives our community more tools to work with. It's a service tool.
Absolutely. And I'm not saying this against it. I just want to have realistic goals and outcomes when we're talking to the council.
So what does happen when someone gets trespass.
They're made to leave.
They leave that location, but if the city says they can't sleep on the public land, where do they go?
There's no easy answer for that, you know. Uh, Some of it may go back to how it was 5 years ago, where they would just disappear out into the woods somewhere, or behind a building this night and move on to this night. Um,
I mean, you
So there's
can't
no
get rid of
real
them just because they
answer for
didn't
that.
follow your rule. right?
No, they would be asked to leave, and if it came to that, and if they refuse to leave, then law enforcement can get involved. But most will head out on their own. And then if they were to return when they're not supposed to return, then they can pursue some form of criminal action. That's not always an answer, although, for some of these individuals. And we've dealt with it recently where, you know, criminal citation isn't an answer for this person. And so we're not accomplishing anything by doing that. And so we didn't do that.
But it'll be easier for them for the people who want to be able to hold down a job, to be able to get a shower.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
And to
Mhm.
function to where they can become more viable within the community. They don't have those resources right now.
Yeah, and it's short term too, the kind of the banishment, it's a day or 3, correct?
Yeah, it's actually hours for some of them.
So-
We'll go through the model, or not in this meeting, but
Mhm.
when we're in Walla Walla, the group will essentially go through it, but I think they had like a 12-hour.
That's what we have in section 6.
6. They had lots. Jordan, when we talked with him in Walla Walla, he basically says, we give lots of chances, because the point is to get him back in line
Mhm.
and back to, you know, getting services and doing things, because, you know, just.
And most of them are probably going to make a misstep here or there. Some of them will go, okay, and
It won't be as fun sleeping out, you know,
Yep.
out there than it will be in a
No.
nice hut. And then I guess ultimately, you know, if there are other enforcement actions, there could be. I mean,
Mhm.
it's could be a little more extreme than what it is.
So are there going to be trash services available at this
Correct.
location? Because I think they're gonna have that question as
Yeah.
well, because that's a huge.
and picking up trash is in the rules.
Yeah.
So you got to pick up after yourself. What we see.
It's kind of why we did the slide showing the Walla Walla Center. If you look at that slide, it is.
Clean.
spotless.
It's
It
clean.
looks great. They do allow the individuals to customize the front of their huts. And it's kind of, they try to make it interesting and fun for people, but it's run pretty tight.
It provides a wonderful community for those people, so that it's a big attraction for them following the rules.
Mhm.
I'm trying to stay in that spot. But
We did see a bit of that happening at the church this last winter. And that in of itself was actually kind of a positive for a lot of the folks there. So
So that'll be the slide presentation unless there's,
So, I apologize for being late. Was there a lighting at night addressed in this?
Not here, but, you know, that's a good question. You do need lighting at night. Also security, lots of security cameras. We're a little bit different dynamic, and that's where this 7-person committee can dictate, you know, maybe some different policy changes, because in Walla Walla, the city runs that operation between 10 and 6 in the morning or something like that. The city actually owns the cameras, the security cameras. And even Jordan wasn't sure who sees them or not, which I thought was kind of interesting, because at least at the church, I did install cameras, and I was on there quite a bit, looking around, making sure things, you know, when we saw things, we'd be calling up, you know, the pastor there and going, hey, I need you to talk to, and, you know, so it's a little bit different dynamic, but there'll be security. The lighting, I think, is a key factor. It has to be well lit. You know, just, it has to be a good, clean, safe site for everybody. It'll also be fenced, and that maybe we didn't address that here. It is a fenced site with, they actually have barbed wire type concertina type fence.
Well, is it privacy fence or is it a?
It was slotted.
It is a
Yeah.
privacy fence also, yeah, and I would probably do privacy too. I think it was 6 foot privacy with the concertina above that. I mean, because you really don't want, we don't want people coming in and we don't want people going out. They do allow people go out, but once they're out, they cannot come back in after hours. It is a locked facility when the curfews set. I believe there's a set at 10 o'clock. Unless some of the residents make arrangements because of work schedules and stuff. They do have alternate.
Did we come up with a section 6 for the sweet home document?
Yes, Sean did section 6, actually.
Did you print it?
I didn't print it. I don't have it here, but we do have it, and I sent it out to everyone, but we can include it with it. And basically, we just took that section 6 and rewordsmithed it, and it's got basically the rules, regulations, a little bit about volunteers and how they're, they act and work in doing check-ins, check-outs, some of that. And I didn't see anything within that we would have issues with whatsoever. And in addition to that, that's the basis for the committee's consideration, but it'll be up to the community's, participation in the committee to, they may say, we go to bed earlier or something, and we want our curfew to start at 9 rather than, I don't know, but that's
Well, it's still a
We're
working, it's a
flexible.
working document that has not been finalized,
correct.
so.
And it'll just be more of an operational document, but we're happy to attach that to this so that people.
So my question would be to Ray and Lisa. Is that big old document with the section 6, I'm assuming has been consolidated and
No, we
Very
just.
good.
took
Section 6 is
section
pulled out.
6 and pulled it out. The big document.
That's the
what
operation.
do we want to give to the city council, I guess?
It's-
Section 6.
It's what, 4 pages, 5 pages?
Oh, 12 or
That's good enough to
13.
start.
Yeah, it's the
That's right.
true breakdown of section 6, whereas our document talked about how our operations
Right.
works with emergency housing, transitional housing, and
Right.
permanent. Because there is no such thing as a sleep center. As soon as it's adopted, then we'll incorporate it in on the policies and procedures.
The council probably only needs section 6 in its entirety.
Right.
The modifications.
Right.
That's all they
They're
really.
not gonna be concerned with.
That's where your questions are probably gonna come from.
And they probably don't really need that volunteer the volunteer duties. They probably don't need that section
No.
either.
It's mainly the rules, regulations, and.
And that's where it answers the questions about what happens when somebody breaks the rules.
We need to get that to them well in advance,
Yes.
so they can read through it and formulate their questions.
Did you make any further edits on that?
No.
Okay, so I can just email it to,
Great, yeah, I mean,
I can email it to Julie or,
I emailed it to the entire team here,
Okay.
except for this gentleman and her.
okay.
But it's available. That link is an open link, so whoever has that link has access. But yeah, we should attach the two and definitely get those materials. And I think it was, what, 12 page, it wasn't.
Ish, yeah.
12 page-ish.
It's
And
easy to
that's-
read.
And that included the all the other.
What else do we need to have ready for that meeting? Is everyone okay with the slide presentation? I guess that's
It's good.
probably the first question.
It's good.
I think we're gonna get a question about budget, and I've thought a lot about it. It's just so tough. So what I thought about doing is possibly showing, here's, fully loaded costs, and here's a likely cost, because, a loaded cost is 30,000 unless I can go convince my buddy to, donate it, and then it's free. But, so the range is so dramatic. I mean, the bottom line is, it's definitely the wages at minimum wage for that many people, but even that's a fully loaded cost. Because if we were to get one volunteer with one paid worker, then you cut that cost in half. So, I don't know. I've thought about it. We can put in a page that summarizes, here's a loaded cost, and here's what we think the likely cost could be or should be. Show a range.
Lisa has a slide.
So there's there's the running cost, but there's also the installation cost. Cost of the fence, the cost of getting some kind of plumbing in the ground, the moving of the trailer, all of that. Do we have a guesstimate on that?
I did get an estimate on just moving the trailer. It was 30,000. The fencing was $9 or $10 a foot. I can't remember. I have it in my notes. So I did get a quote from T. Girding, I've been working with some fairly large construction companies on some donations and some other things. So there's some dynamics around that maybe, but the fencing, we probably get it through there because they get a better deal than we would and so on and so forth. The gravel, I'm working with Knife River to get that donated. Well, that could be probably $30,000 of gravel right there easily.
And that's gonna be key for this facility, just, it doesn't rain in Walla Walla.
Right. The site prep, we've talked about it. There are individuals with companies here that have it. I also contacted my lead, because actually in Albany, the National Guard has that's what they do, is road building and construction and all this. So she's getting me the number of the commander there. She was number 2. I think she's on maternity leave right now, but she's getting me the number because they used to do coordinated projects like this. And basically, if you provide materials, they'll provide everything. And so they do it as a training operation for the National Guard. So we're looking at a lot there. I know we have the 150,000, plus there's some of this year's budget that's dedicated to it, and it's just, that's another, if we get the property, we can keep, talking about the budgets, but the financing and funding basically comes from us. There's a little bit of funding from the city, but it isn't this is where you may want to speak up more. Right now, it's not a city operation where all the expense goes upon the city. We're setting up a new website that we hope to have launched before, we get the property, and it'll have fundraising capabilities as well. We're donating the shower trailer, things like that.
Well, I don't think we're interested in being in the homeless business, but I do think there's going to be questions about getting this going, and the bear tax to being able to have a full-fledged ground, what that looks like, and we're going to ask questions.
Yeah, and I think we have some, it's a 300 to 500K operation once it's fully, going up with the setup initially, and then it's probably, it just depends on how smoothly it runs, as Chief Lynn mentioned. If it runs pretty smoothly, it becomes a lot less expensive. The labor is the big piece once it's running. We're also seeking actions by a lot of our partners. So while I've already gotten, Easter Seals will give us people. There's a lot of agencies that will give us people to also staff to help operate and do things. So it could be, everything from 100K a year to operate to, more if we decide to do more transitional and some other things as well. But we're looking, I just, the water and the sewer and some of that.
Well, and I also think that a lot will depend on what the county's going to do with that property. If they bring in sewer, if they bring in water, if they bring in power, we may be opening this thing without those.
Yeah.
The very first
about
winter.
90K for the water, sewer, power is what I found out. The moving of the buildings about 30. Site prep is between 30 and 50. So that's just not even opening anything yet. The huts themselves are relative. If we did a Conestoga, you're looking at about 1,200. But when you talk to Walla Walla, they said they worked with Home Depot and got it for down to like $200 or $300 a piece. So the difficulty I have is the range is too. So what we can do is say, it's a $250,000 operation, really what it is.
I think it's gonna have to phase in before we have Walla Walla. It's not gonna be ready
It's
by
not gonna be a
November.
$250,000 right off.
It's not gonna be ready by November to look like Walla Walla. It just won't.
So just a little interesting little fact, if you're at $500,000 per year for the operation, that is a cost of, if we're serving all 44 that we counted this year, that's $11,300 a year per person. If you're serving just 30 at $16,000 per person. So that might be a interesting figure.
That's still.
So they're probably going to ask if we end up having best pots, trash services, the basics, and so just be prepared.
We're prepared for it, but we would love to be able to piggyback on whatever benefits the city gets from, say, trash services. So, we're prepared. for that one.
Oh, I got it. I think it's green light. We come to the community health committee meeting. We will have to pass this forward.
It'd be a recommendation to take this to the council, yeah. We want to just be very specific in the ask. And what you're asking for. We're asking to move, here is our plan, we're asking to move forward to begin work with the county. To acquire that control and tenure of that property in whatever form that's going to look like. So
You want to write down what you think the ask should be exactly.
well,
We'll make the ask.
I think that's what it is the next step is, and we kind of have an outline. If you like this conceptual outline, now we need the property. So can we enter negotiations, formally with the county to utilize that property? And there's going to be questions about what other pieces of property did we look at? Why this piece of property? What about this makes it good? There's going to be people who are going to have concern because, well, we're trying to develop and work with somebody right across the rail. How's that going to look? So we're going to need to be prepared for those kinds of questions.
Typically, this way, looking south, it's got a nice enough for that to be developed over there.
Yeah,
So I feel like we get along well and be a good fit. If it detracts from the area, then you're gonna be in trouble.
We have to be moved over. And it is set up actually to be fairly, it's not super movable, but, and I don't really want to go there with that, but really what they're seeing is a fence, and that will remind me to take some good pictures from the outside of what this is going to look like from the outside. Because literally all the walls is right next door to the prison. So
Right, literally.
it's-
Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have the gate almost.
Yeah.
But with the privacy fence, maybe some vegetation that creates a nice lawn.
Sure.
You just need to be careful right away for the rail track.
Mhm.
I believe coming from that towards Weimar, there is a road spur there, an old road. And whether or not they need to keep that open for use by the Public Works Department or the county, I'm not sure.
On the west end.
Yeah, along that fence line between the railroad tracks and the properties that are being utilized.
Yes, yeah.
There is a nice road there. And I do believe these people.
Off of 24th, is that what you're talking about, or going to the Weimar parking lot?
It runs.
24th.
Right there.
Okay.
behind those fences.
Okay.
Yeah, and we defer to, I mean, that's now a city county thing. We're not gonna mess with the road right of ways. We're not gonna mess with definitely rail right of ways because they have their own rules, so.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with ODOT.
They don't have anything.
They utilize that walkway. They're going to do that. So we need to make sure that the local neighbors and everything don't feel on as well. But if that needs to stay open. Very good problem.
Yeah, well, Joe has all that already. We've kind of started that process with the setback from the ODOT right of way. And we're gonna have to do some, we are gonna have to give some right of way on our property to get that pathway through there, I believe, because there's a kind of a small pond there. So we're gonna kind of finagle that around and make it work. But we've had those discussions and Joe's aware that we can draw that out. Interesting conversation with Nancy Brewer on Friday. Lebanon is moving forward on doing something. So she asked us what we're doing. I said, well, what are you doing next week? You want to come with us? And she's like, unfortunately I can't, but otherwise I would like to. So it sounds like they're moving forward on a facility, which will be advantageous because we don't have to worry about them hopefully trying to ship them to us like they were at the church. And I'm going to have that conversation with Nancy. That's not being a good neighbor, Nancy. Knock it off.
Well,
So-
could we contemplate sending them a bill if they do?
We can. I'm not sure how that would go over. I'll just tell her I'm not buying lunch next time we have our little regional city manager meeting and she has to buy twice in a row. So,
And I think we're seeing some traction a little bit. I mean, there was a meeting today with the Lebanon Police Department. They want to do point in time like counts and
Right.
things like that.
she said she was going to talk to you guys about helping with that. So,
Great.
yeah.
Yeah, we're actually excited about it because doing a point in time count, we did one. It was official. It's like doing the census. It's a federally mandated activity and it's officially submitted to HUD. So we did it then and came up with the numbers we came up with, but they're a little suspect, but actually we're excited because we think the numbers would be a lot bigger because we can actually get people. They aren't huddling down somewhere. It was pretty rainy and pretty messy in January when it was done. So
Yeah.
we're game.
Is that everything? Anybody else? Concerns, thoughts?
Dick?
I'm fine, thanks.
And then just make sure you acknowledge the team. I know Sean's been pretty instrumental too. And these, the folks here.
Any questions, concerns?
I do actually, just out of curiosity, I'm wondering how does this get, because I've wondered this about other programs, how does the information get disseminated to the community that needs the resource? I mean, do we send people out pamphlets to hand out or?
It'll be a combination of probably word of mouth. Jeff's guys will have some kind of a handout to give them that shows them where it is. The outreach team, yeah, the outreach team will hand stuff out.
Eastland County, and then we'll have Shirley's group is also working on a resource. Not just with that, but all the resources available to be able to provide to the departments and stuff like that. I think we have an outdated Benton County.
Shirley and Brock and me and Christy all have regular contact with most of the clientele.
Yeah.
On,
I just had no idea.
yeah,
Plus, I think even through the school district with Christie and that group, that whole group will be involved in that process of contacting people, resources.
Anything else?
Wednesday, we're gonna leave here, I'm guessing 1 o'clock for those who are attending. There'll be 7 of us making the trip. Everybody has decided to just go and come back now. So we're gonna head over Wednesday. Okay. Okay. The rest of us are jumping in, doing our thing and then jumping back and we'll be back at work Friday morning with a smile on our face.
Just drink lots of coffee on.
Might be late Friday morning, but we'll be here. Yeah, so looking forward to it.
I'll be here at 1 on Wednesday.
Good. I think, it's a good process. I think we're so far ahead from where we were. And it's good to see the dots getting dotted and Ts getting crossed. So good process. Good job, everyone.
So next Monday night, we take this to the health committee.
Yes,
We ask them, move this forward.
we'll make an action. Yeah. So, so you know other business before us, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks to everybody that put a lot of work
Oh.
into this.
Sorry, Dick, I skipped over you. Is there anything else?
It's all right. Larry already skipped over me earlier, so it's,
Oh, man.
I have discovered my place.
You're not easy to skip over.
Thanks.
Sorry about that, Dick.
That's all right.
Did you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, I was gonna congratulate Sean on the work on the sleep center rules. That was good. Section 6 was very well done.
Very exciting. Good night, Dick.
Good night, Nick.
Say good night,
Good
Dick.
night, Nick. Thanks, Jeff. See you tomorrow at, lunchtime. Pizza tomorrow. Nice.
Ooh,
Pizza and salad. Lily's making the salad, Figaro's is making the pizza.
okay,
Because our
works for me.
cook is taking the rest of the summer